What kind of a person do you think he is?
He is the most intelligent gentleman, with the focus on gentleman, and I met a few. I mean, I would say that in the sense of what Jane Austen wrote about the accomplished gentleman in Pride and Prejudice, he amounts to these standards.
And a special intelligent gentleman he is. The hypocrisy and double standards of Anglo-Saxons is sometimes unbearable. The British and the collective West have made no secret of their visceral hatred towards Russia because they couldn't get a chance to get President Putin out of office, create chaos in Russia, and then have the opportunity to steal their resources like they did in the days of Boris Yeltsin. Hello and welcome again to the Age of Politics podcast. Geopolitical Queen here with today's episode on how some Western hypocritical journalists always try to shamelessly push words into people's mouths just to suit their Western so-called democratic agenda. This constant attempt to demonize anyone who does not immediately agree that President Putin is a devil. It's not journalism. It is pure propaganda. And one can safely say that these kinds of hypocritical interviews are absurd. Would anyone have complained if a former foreign affairs minister from any country moved to the UK or the US or any European country after their illegal invasions of Iraq? No one would have questioned their integrity, especially if they could not find a job from their native countries because of political misunderstandings. Take a listen to how quickly this hypocritical journalist changed the topic once the lady mentioned the name Tony Blair.
Our government imploded in May 2019, and I wanted to restart my life as an analyst, as a university teacher, and I had to find out that there was not a single contract left, and that was political pressure. So when you don't have a single contract, it was not really easy to restart. In spring this year, I received the offer by the rector of St. Petersburg University whether I would like to run an interdisciplinary institute, and they mentioned what they would like to see in there. And for one night I was doing brainstorming with myself, and I created the name Gorky, which is the acronym for Geopolitical Observatory for Russia's Key Issues.
Do you understand that it is hugely controversial for a former Austrian foreign minister to move to Russia at a time when this country has launched an unprovoked full-scale invasion of its neighbour, of Ukraine? Isn't there a danger that by being here you are legitimizing the invasion, the war, and also the domestic repression that takes place in Russia?
Well, so far I have not seen any sort of repression in my immediate surrounding. I can work here in a kind of academic freedom, which I started missing when I was still teaching at various universities inside
But just
the
a few
European
days
Union.
ago, in this city, not far away from this building, a young Russian woman was sent to prison for 7 years for replacing some price tags in a supermarket with anti-war slogans. There is definitely a wave of repression taking place in Russia.
Yeah, and so what do I have to do with that? I just explained at length the situation that I have been going through. So let us put it, the whole thing to the other way. Why was Karin Kneißl forbidden to work? Where is my crime?
But do you condemn the invasion?
Sir, if you have seen my interview with your esteemed colleague Stephen Sacker, I answered his interrogation, and I'm not interested in having another interrogation.
I'm asking you whether the Russian invasion is, in
Yes,
your
the
view,
Russian invasion,
entirely
like
illegal.
any outbreak of war, is a violation of international law. Yes, that I just replied.
It's just that you're now living and
Yes,
working
I'm living
in
here,
Russia.
and then I was traveling to Russia, and your esteemed colleague, Mr. Saka, did this interrogation with me. BBC did it already.
But you're studying the geopolitical situation,
Yes.
right? And you can't look at the geopolitical situation in Europe or the world without focusing on the war in Ukraine. Surely
Yes,
that is, which has
it's not
turned the
focus.
world upside down.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that it has turned the world upside down, honestly not. Having written about geopolitics for 25 years, I would say a war that has definitely turned the world upside down is the war in Iraq.
2018, we had the Salisbury poisonings, right? Then dozens of Russian diplomats.
Highly likely, yeah, to take the British term.
That it was linked to the Russian state, yes.
Highly likely.
So you don't believe that the...
I don't know, I just quote the British authorities, highly likely.
But just a few months after, of course, you invited Vladimir Putin to your wedding and you danced with him and you curtsied to him. You understand how controversial that must have been then.
Yeah, by the time I was the foreign minister and by the time I danced with President Putin, but you see, I have done other things in my life before and after, and honestly, it's so boring. Honestly, it's very boring.
To talk about the wedding.
Yes.
So we should
So
just...
I think there are other more interesting topics we can discuss, honestly.
You have no regrets?
I consider it as honestly boring, and the dog just fell asleep and was snoring because he knows the topic.
The dog's not interested. But people are amazed still. I'm not saying that Vladimir Putin is your close friend, but you've met him. You've met him. From your meetings with him, what kind of a person do you think he is?
He is the most intelligent gentleman, with the focus on gentleman, and I met a few. I would say that in the sense of what Jane Austen wrote about the accomplished gentleman in Pride and Prejudice, he amounts to these standards.
This idea of President Putin as a sort of a Jane Austen gentleman might surprise some when you consider what's happened in recent years.
Yes, I stick to this statement. He's the most intelligent and accomplished gentleman I ever met.
Objectively, we're seeing a wave of repression domestically, and we've seen Russia invade Ukraine. It's hard to classify that as a gentlemanly action.
Well, Tony Blair, Cameron, they all were involved with their governments being involved in military actions. Libya, Syria.
Finally, I mean, you say that there are people in Austria who've accused you or accuse you of high treason, accuse you of being...
A Russian spy.
A Russian spy. Can you, to an extent, understand?
No, not to an inch. Not even to an inch. I don't understand it. It's just dirty fantasy.
So what do you think? Is the collective West right in demonizing President Putin just because they couldn't get their way in Russia? Or they are just hypocrites, especially now that Israel is killing babies in incubators in Gaza, but they are refusing to see? Well, kindly leave your comments in the comment section below. And thanks for tuning in. I will be back with the next broadcast. Good day.